George Bush. Okay, the first. This is the 1946 and second George Bush. He has all his planets rising, nothing setting, everything in the rising side. He projected everything. He projected his way, what he saw. He had no ability to respond to other people. He went in and just did things. He was loved or hated. But he really had that powerful drive to project out, to prove things, to do things. But it was, his sun is in his 12th house. So he has a 12th house. The puzzle about relationships, we don't know. I don't know enough. But he was related, but it was even his parents that got him there. It's funny, you just have to look around. Like, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. I just want to play with these so you just have some idea. Telhar Jisharda, all of his planets, just Uranus in the 4th, almost everything else is rising and above the horizon. But he had the one planet below. Still very projecting most of his energy, but a tremendous amount of energy in the 7th house, which implies what's happening in the 7th. It opposes the 6th, but it's paralleling the 7th. So what's happening in the relationship house? He would have been difficult to relate to, most likely with the more dedicated life. I don't know enough about him. I just went in and chose the charts that had these. Gurmai Chintalasananda, she's a Indian girl, Indian yogi, and she has all her planets rising. But she was a fairly controversial figure in that she grew up. She had a teacher, and the students, after the teacher died, the students two of the students took two different sides. There was two politics, and she was one side, and there was another side. So there was a battle who should be the next follow-up. But she had that. She has struggles between 2nd house and 11th house, 10th and 4th, 10th and 3rd. She was imbalanced towards the ascendant, but she really had a strong identity and was able to accomplish things and hold things together. But there were controversies. This is Deepak Chopra. Okay, everything setting, nothing rising. His Uranus is on his 4th house, which allows for that unconventional motivation, seeing things a little differently and being able to express it. That's the Gemini I see. But really, everything setting, he really knows how to respond to other people. He sees the values and the trust and the lack of trust between people and the interactions between people. Is really strong on that insight, on the setting insight, not so strong on the projection. It's his words and his ideas, but he's really expressing based on his experience and his response to people, how we see things. Okay, so we may go a little bit longer. Bill Clinton, he had, no, it's not. I thought it was everything above. It's not. There's a lot of planets in the 1st house, 9th. So his is above, but 1st house, 6th house, 11th house, 8th house. Friends at work, friends, associates, and the trust around relationships. That's the moon in the 8th. So there's the affairs, the holding together, those challenges. He still was able to get Charles Darwin, everything rising. Getting his ideas, projecting them out to the world to fit to the bull chart, trying to fit it to the other side, but he certainly got his information and projected it out. But he had a one-side thing, even though he had followers and people followed his understanding, he didn't really have followers. It wasn't a big movement that built up around it. It was intellectually, it had its effect over time. Mike Erlewine, Matrix, did the computer program build that Matrix. All of his planets are setting. He knew how to work with other people and respond with other people and put together what he needed to put together. But he didn't project to do it. He reacted. He was in a really good place, time, put things together and built up Matrix, the Wind Star, the computer programs. He built up a Buddhist meditation center. He aligned with a spiritual group. He really pulled teams together. The next one. Sorry. one is Harrison Ford. Everything above the horizon, nothing below. Not substantial depth. His energy was being out, knowing how to maintain the sun and moon in Cancer and Jupiter all up in the 10th house, everything above the horizon, his status, his power, his image. He knows how to play out the role and live for that role, know what to do to play the positions. So, but in terms of personal depth, in terms of personal insight, there's not a lot of accentuation there. So it's a top-heavy spinning top. Of course, he was always in social, even in his acting, he's always in social situations of spinning, changing, and he's juggling and scrambling around through it. Whoopi Goldberg, not quite everything setting except for the Venus up top. So she became known for the woman and the comedian. She became known that Venus and Sag, but everything was really setting. She knew how to respond and had a strong sense of what's right, 9th house, and of what's trustworthy and what's not, what's prejudice, what's not. She had a strong sense of that. Scorpio moon, very judgmental person, but her patterns mostly above, mostly setting and one planet above, or all rising one planet below. But when you're looking at these pattern types, you begin to see how the first glance you see, oh, you imagine the top and you say, huh, you got an insight on it. Now here's Goldie Hawn. She has most of her planets above the horizon, although Venus and the moon and Uranus are in the 6th house. So she has an ability to react, take impressions and react to other people. It's in Gemini, so she can be funny reacting to other people. Anyway, we can get into this further, but it's just a starting point to jump. You just have the image of the spinning top of the houses, spinning on person's integrity. D.H. Lawrence, everything above the horizon, social situations, relationships, friends, commitments, not so much personal depth, but social insight. What's appropriate, what's not, what fits in, what doesn't. Paul McCartney, everything below the horizon. She loves me, yeah. Well, originally, She Loves You was She Loves Me. That was the original song, and then it got adapted later on. So he was a songwriter, one of the Beatles, very established, but he was known for his social activities. He's known for his personal performance. 5th house, 2nd house. In the parallel houses, he's got 1st house, 6th, 2nd, 3rd, and 2nd and 5th and 3rd and 4th. So this is spinning around his own personal time. He's doing his own thing, and he just got famous for it. It wasn't about where he fit in or how he played the role. He didn't play the role out there at all. Benito Mussolini, everything above the horizon, nothing below. He played a role with Hitler, and in the Second World War, it was very fascist and controlled. Everybody not concerned about anybody's personal life. They had to fit into the system or else. There's that 9th house belief system. And the 7th house, how people relate. So it's hard to imagine. I don't know anything about his relationships. Because if he had them, if he was married or whatever, I tend to think he might not have, but he could have ordered it up, but it was like not an easy place. These are things where we've got the data, we can go find out people's lives and study it, but here it's just, I wanted to have some examples just to reinforce the singing. Geraldo Rivera, everything below the horizon. Here's a person who's got his TV show. He's not fitting into the norm. He's not fitting out there, but he talks. He has his ideas, his 3rd house, 4th house, 2nd house, 5th house, 1st house, 6th house. He has this personal way of what's integrity. He can get to people. He get to on people's nerves where they're coming from. But he's not always liked out there. But other people think he's not playing by the rules of everyone else. But he has a way of reaching that personal story. Carlos Santana, a musician. I met him, but he's always maintained his own type of musician, his own music. Didn't always fit into even the radical. I've never he sort of had a jazzier twist to his blues, but certainly was a player. Like there were a lot of people like there's in the mid 60s, 60s and the 70s that built up their careers, and they really built up a depth of performing. Paul McCartney, this one. A lot of people had this type of bundle chart, and some were really below the horizon, some were above. Sylvester Stallone, Rocky, he has everything above the horizon. Not depth, but he played these roles, like Harrison Ford, Sylvester Stallone, they played these roles of what was going bad outside or inside, and he was surviving and adjusting in it. Ringo Starr, everything below the horizon, like Paul McCartney, the personal creative expression. Using one's resources to perform with, being motivated by it. These were, so two of the Beatles had these planets all below the horizon. It wasn't about where they fit in. It's just they were into what they were into, and they were into it well, and people were lucky to find it. They had something special. Queen Victoria, she had a Gemini sun, moon, and ascendant in Gemini. Imagine that, all above the horizon. So she had social roles to play, and she followed her ideas very strictly. 12th house, look at a huge 12th house. Certainly would affect relationships, her situation, but not much personal depth. She played social roles. Brian Wilson, I think that's the last one. He's in the Beach Boys, and he has almost everything below the horizon, but Venus just in the 12th. And whether he was ever appreciated as much as he was talented, it's hard. He really wasn't, but he did get his. They did have their fame, but it was mostly because they had their own style and did their own second house, fifth house, own style of performance. So I just went through the charts I had, and I pulled out the bundles and the bowls that were on one side. There's a lot in between that's a mix of them, but I took out the ones that were more dramatic, that would express, where you could sort of see how it's affecting the spinning top concept. Okay, how are we doing? Yeah, okay, so we're done. Thank you. And next week, we move out of the houses, we start going into planets. Okay. Okay, I'll finish this here. Close this off here. Okay, thanks.